Hi guys, I'm Wilson Scribezoo, and this is GosuGamers extended coverage of the E-League Face It Overwatch Open Qualifier. Today we have one of the winners of the fourth and final NA qualifier from compLexity Gaming. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, how's it going? I am Anthony Ballo. I go by the alias Harbleu in game, and I'm the flex for compLexity Gaming.
Awesome. So let's get started with something very basic. How'd you get into esports?
So I actually started playing video games competitively about probably about 7 years ago. I played Team Fortress 2 when I was about 16 years old. I originally just started pubbing the game, and I kind of got into it almost as like a joke. Like, we had this team that was mainly for fun, and we played against another team that was for fun in the community, and we won. And the group of us was like, "Wow, this is actually pretty cool." So we kind of continued on playing. Then I left that group and pretty much found my way onto one of the top teams in TF2 after practicing, which we won our first ESEA tournament. And from then on out, I kind of just stuck with that for about 5 or 6 years until Overwatch came out, and then made a transition to this.
All right, awesome. So you started in the scene very early on. Could you talk about how your origins got started in the Overwatch scene?
Yeah, so pretty much me and a group of guys from TF2 who I was on a team with then, all were following Overwatch from like early on in development, and we were lucky enough to get into the closed beta like day one. And so we all just played a lot, practiced together. It was originally the group of what is now NRG, of like Seagull and Enigma. I played a lot with them, and so I actually was on a team with them originally in Overwatch for about a month. I can go more in depth on that if you want also.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right, so yeah, so I played with them for, I played with them all during closed beta and up until release. And then after release, we got picked up by LG as our sponsor, which I was with them for about 2 to 3 weeks after we got picked up. At that time, though, so I was the only one on the team who worked a full-time job outside of Overwatch. The rest of them were fully committed to Overwatch and playing just much more than I was, just because they had a lot more free time than I did. And they just felt like that I wasn't progressing as fast as they were. So at that time, they decided to go with different options and release me from the team. So I was it was a little disheartening, because I considered those guys friends for so long. I had played with them for years up until that point. But I knew that I had the talent to be like a top player in this game. So after that, the guys from my current team, compLexity, at the time, which was Code 7, we're going through some roster issues, and they pretty much offered me a tryout spot. And pretty much from right then, it hit off pretty well. They were really impressed with what I brought to the team. And since then, we've just improved a lot and gotten a lot better. And I think we're comfortable to say that we're one of the top 3-4 teams in North America now. So it's been pretty awesome.
Let's kind of move forward and look specifically at this week's Overwatch Open Qualifier. So you guys had a great run to qualify. You guys beat Method, Sodipop, and then you had a very close match over Liquid to make it to the regional finals. Who do you think was your toughest adversary throughout the entire, the qualifier?
Well, I think Liquid's the only team that we dropped the map to, and we definitely, teams like Method and Sodipop, they definitely are good teams, but they're teams that we always expect to be beating them when we play them. Like, we know that they can beat us, and if we're not playing our A game going into the match, they can easily beat us. But we were definitely playing some of our best Overwatch those games, so we managed to 2-0 both of them. And then we weren't sure who we were going to be playing in the finals. We knew Liquid was going against NRG, and NRG is obviously a really good team also. So we were making sure to watch that match before the finals, and yeah, we saw Liquid take that 2-0. And we had played Liquid, I think, 4 or 5 times in the past couple weeks. So both of us are really practiced against each other. So we know a lot what they're going to do. They know what we're going to do. So we knew it was going to be a really hard match. And yeah, throughout the match, we just kept trading maps back and forth. I think we won the first one. They won the second. We barely took the third on King's Row. So it was just like an insanely close match that came down to the final map. And we were able to cap it out with like 30 seconds left or something. So it was some ridiculous match. And we're just all, super excited that we won, because we knew how tough of an opponent Liquid is now. Like, with the new roster, they're just a lot stronger than they were before. But we managed to come out on top.
Yeah, that's awesome. So building off of that, we now know, what the final 16 teams are for the NA regional final. what are your top four teams that you're looking out for? The top four teams that you feel like have the best chance of qualifying?
So I feel like the way that the North American scene is right now is that Envious is obviously they're the clear-cut number one, haven't lost a match in forever. Uh, they're definitely the best team out there. Besides them, though, I feel like us, Cloud9, and Fnatic all are pretty much on the same level. Like, we beat Cloud9 the past 4 to 5 times we faced them. And Cloud9 beats like Fnatic every time they play them. So we kind of have like this triangle thing going on where we can all beat each other. So I feel like us three are like the second through fourth best teams. And then there's teams like Liquid, NRG, and some other ones out there who I'd say are like slightly behind, but they can always definitely upset any of the top teams out there. So there's a lot of parity right now in the North American scene, and it's actually pretty awesome. It makes for like some really great competition. But yeah, if you the top 4 teams that I expect to make it are probably the 4 teams that won the qualifiers: NVS, us, Fnatic, and C9.
Yeah, awesome. So you guys recently kind of made a huge push up the NA scene. You guys, I think this started when you guys left Gale Force and kind of returned to Code 7, and that was kind of what the start of a lot of great results from you guys. What changed? What changed from, I guess, being like kind of like relatively like middle upper of the pack as Gale Force, and all of a sudden when you guys became Code 7 again, you guys started like making huge moves, started upsetting like a lot of the higher ranked teams and taking even like maps off of Cloud9 and Fnatic at the time.
Yeah, so it was actually just a weird coincidence. Like, we always knew we had the talent and everything to be a top team. We just knew it would obviously take us time to get to that level. Like, back when we were with Gale 47 and scrims and stuff, we would always do really well against teams like Cloud9, NRG, and stuff like that. Just whenever it came to matches, I don't know if it was like a mental block or what, but just in matches, we were never able to win those clutch matches. And then I forget what tournament. I think it was like either the Beyond the Summit qualifier or the Beat Invitational or something. There was some tournament where we went through a run of beating NG Red back when they were like a top team also. So we beat them. Then right after that, we played LG and beat them. And then so we beat those 2 teams and we're pretty happy. But then we knew we had C9 after, so we're like, all right, let's just keep this going. And then we ended up, that was like when C9 was still almost like unbeatable. Like, it was them and Envious who were 1 and 2, and that was like set in stone. And we ended up upsetting them also. So pretty much after that, we knew that, okay, we've done it in a tournament finally. We've gotten over that whatever block we had. Now let's just keep this going. And since then, we beat C9 like another 3 out of 4 times, and our results against like every other team has been great. So we knew we always had like the talent to be at this level. It just, I don't know what it was, it just took us time. And it was just a weird coincidence that it was after we left Gale Force that it started happening. But it was pretty cool that it worked out when we did, because it opened up a lot of sponsorship opportunities for us, and definitely helped us out a lot.
So I'm catching you guys actually a day before you guys kind of fly off to Gamescom, and obviously this is the first really big international event for Overwatch. How does it feel to be part of this opportunity?
I mean, it feels awesome. Like, from back where I came from in TF2, we had no tournaments that were even close to the magnitude of this. So for me personally, like, competing in like a $100,000 tournament in Germany with like everything paid for, flying out, it's like it's like a dream come true for me pretty much. And to be able to compete against all the best teams, like, I think every team there is in the top 8 of the GosuGamers rankings. So it's like literally the best of the best there. So it's pretty awesome. And yeah, the fact that we were able to qualify, especially against such a close match against Liquid, it's yeah. I mean, it's still like, even a week later, thinking back, it's like, just wow, man, we managed to do this. This is awesome. So we're super excited about it and looking forward to winning hopefully.
Yeah. So what are you guys looking forward to the most? I mean, this can be like either in game or out of game, but you guys excited to go to Cologne?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think so. The only other countries I've been to is Canada and Britain. So this will be like actually the first country I've been to where I guess like English isn't the main language. So I'm curious to see how all that works out. I think the cool thing that we have is our team's one of the few teams, I think, at least from America, who we've all actually played at a LAN together before. We played at the LAN in California. It was some launch LAN. We came in 3rd on that, but we have like the experience of playing together in a LAN environment. So I think we have that going in favor of us. So I think honestly, just playing on the stage and like playing with the stakes what they are, I always thrive under those sort of situations, and I'm just really looking forward to competing in all of it.
going back to kind of the Overwatch Open, so the LAN finals will actually be broadcasted on TBS, and this was something they did with Counter-Strike in the past. How does it kind of feel to have Overwatch make that huge step from being just a game that started up open release like 2 months ago, and now being broadcasted on a pretty major, I guess, television channel?
I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Like when the game first came out, everyone knew that the game had a possibility of being this huge game. Blizzard, they care a lot about the esports side of it, you could tell, and they were putting a lot of work in to get it to be this big game. But to see these leagues actually, going out there this early on, like I think the game's only been out like 3 months now, and you already have like $100,000 tournament this weekend, and then E-League in like a month or so, a couple months with $300,000. Like it's insane that the launch has been like this successful so far, and hopefully it's just the start of things to come. I think all of us would love to see the game keep growing and hopefully be able to compete with some of like the other huge esports titles like CS:GO and Dota 2 and those sort of ones.
Yeah. So a lot of esports kind of have that barrier to entry for like the average person who turns on their television at midnight or whatever and goes to watch whatever's on TBS, and they catch this game. The majority of people probably won't be super drawn in by it. So what does Overwatch need to change to kind of draw that mainstream audience, or do you think we just need to do more of what we're doing right now?
I think something Blizzard could do is somehow make the spectator UI a bit more clear to see what's going on. See, the issue this game has compared to games like CS:GO is CS:GO, there's a lot of downtime between rounds, and it's pretty straightforward what's going on. While Overwatch, you have just so many things happening at once with like ults and just all these different heroes and things like that. So for someone who hasn't watched the game before, it's definitely a bit harder. But then again, you can make the same argument for games like Dota 2 or League of Legends, where you have all these different abilities and champions. So I think on the actual development side, yeah, there's like some elements I think they could add to make it a bit easier to tell what's going on. But besides that, I think it's just, it comes from watching it and understanding what's going on. I don't think there's like any easy thing that they can do for it, unfortunately.
So expanding more on, kind of the Overwatch Open, stuff like that, how do you think Europe stacks up against North America? Obviously, there's this huge debate between which side is better, and since Envious kind of came over from Europe, there's obviously that weird contention there. But to this date, we haven't really seen a European team fight an American team on equal ground where the ping is about the same. So where do you think NA really stacks up against the EU?
So I think it's awesome that I think normally in a lot of FPS games out there, it feels like Europe is always like the dominant scene. Like in Counter-Strike for the longest time, Europe was always like the strongest. I think for a while, the general consensus has been that the American scene is slightly stronger. Now, obviously, you have Envious, who is a primary European team, but hey, they are playing in America, and they do have an American player. So you know what? I'm counting them as American. But so I think all the teams, like at the top level, though, between Europe and America are extremely close, though. I think teams like Reunited, Rogue, Creation, all of them, Misfits also, I think they're pretty much on the same level that like the top four in America are also, like us and Fnatic and all of us. So I think the top level is extremely close. I think Europe in general has more talented teams. Like after you get outside those top four, then they have teams like Luminosity, NiP, and like a bunch of other teams that are close to breaking into the top level, but not quite there yet. So I think the scenes are actually extremely close, and I think this LAN will be actually a great opportunity to tell who is stronger out there right now, because it honestly is almost too close to tell.
Yeah. So in terms of scrim partners, do you guys typically just solely scrim within NA, or do you guys go look for EU teams? I know it's kind of difficult because you guys, I guess distance-wise, it's kind of it's pretty far. But do you guys look for EU teams to scrim?
So normally we just do mainly North American teams, but lately we have been trying to get more European teams. We've been scrimming Creation lately and a couple others. And thankfully the netcode in this game is actually pretty good for playing like across the ocean, even with like 100 ping. Obviously you're going to be at a disadvantage still, but it is still actually pretty accurate. So like I said, we normally do scrim North American teams, but we have been trying to work in some European teams also just to see if there's like a different play style or anything they do. But the interesting thing is that, even though the North American teams and the European teams don't play each other that much, the meta between them is still very similar. Like right now, ever since the Zenyatta buffs, everyone runs like Zenyatta, a lot of Genji, Tracer, Zarya, that sort of thing. And it seems to be the same case in Europe as it is America for it. So It's cool to see that. Even though we're not playing each other, it's like all of us can tell like what the strongest things are out there.
Yeah. So moving on to beyond just North America and EU, obviously there's been a lot of development coming over from the Asian countries. I know Korea recently just signed two really big teams. I think Woong, who used to be a League of Legends player, I think went and created like two specific teams that have both been signed by Africa. And recently, literally I think just maybe like an hour or two ago, Temple Storm announced that they actually signed Untitled Spreadsheet, which is a team from Australia, the ANZ, so basically Australia and New Zealand region. How do you feel like the development of these other regions besides North America and EU coming along? Are these teams that you're watching out for, or is it just right now you just want to see where they are in the scene?
So personally, I don't think many American teams are really watching much of the regions yet, like Korea and China and Australia, and that's just because we know we're not going to be competing against them anytime soon. Now, obviously, if whenever there is like a international tournament announced with teams from every region, we're going to start studying, seeing what they're doing, see if there's anything we take away from them. So I couldn't say personally how strong I think they are, but I will say I think it's super awesome that all these regions are actually getting into Overwatch, because I came from TF2, and really the only regions were America and Europe. So having seeing like Koreans and Chinese teams getting into it, I'm hoping that sometime in the near future we do have that international land with teams from every region, because I think that's that'd just be completely awesome playing against all of that.
Yeah, so we actually might have an opportunity at upcoming BlizzCon. Obviously, they announced I guess the Overwatch World Cup, where they're specifically grouping players together by their countries and entering in. Obviously you guys are kind of like listed on as part of the U.S. / Canada teams. Are you guys, any of you guys know if you guys are going or not, or is that still?
So they haven't told any of us that yet. The only people I think on our team who are in the voting is me, Shake, which is our support, and then also Joe, who is Canadian and is also our other support. So I think us three are all in the voting, and all of us are definitely hoping to go. But yeah, they haven't really announced anything for that. I will say I think the tournament format is pretty interesting. There are some aspects of it that I'm kind of not in complete agreement with. I think the fact that they have some streamers and stuff in there who are just like there for the popularity, the fact that it is based off community vote, it's going to be hard to say like how competitive the actual tournament will be. But I can see where Blizzard was going for with the tournament. Like it is, supposed to be like a big spectacle and things like that. So I can see how that's pretty cool. I just would have liked to see more actual like players from top teams instead of like the mix it has currently. But it is what it is, and I think it will be actually a pretty good showing whenever it does, get along.
Yeah. So let's talk about more you as a player. So as a flex player, you are required to fill a lot of gaps in team composition. Oftentimes you'll be playing anything from like a third DPS to like a secondary tank to even a third support. So how do you keep your entire repertoire kind of fresh and prepared? Like, do you set a specific practice schedule?
Not really. I'll say honestly, the issue I first had when I first started playing Overwatch was that I did have a pretty limited hero pool, and that actually was one of the other reasons that LG cut me, was that they felt like I couldn't play enough heroes out there, especially in the flex role. So pretty much after that, I looked back and I was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe I should flush out some of the heroes I'm possible to play. So once I joined Code 7, I just started playing pretty much a lot of different DPS. I made sure, like, in case I did have to play like McCree or something like that, I'd be good on them. And then I made sure I could play like all the tank roles and off tank roles and that sort of thing. So it just, I did it some in like quick play, ranked, and now I'm at the point where I really don't practice like individual heroes when I go into like ranked. I just honestly I play a lot of Roadhog in it just because Roadhog right now isn't in the meta, and I miss playing him. He was always my favorite hero to play, and there's very few maps that I'm still to play him on for my team. So it just honestly, people always ask me like, how do you, get good? How do you play all these heroes? And there's no easy way about it. You just have to, it comes from playing a lot. And like honestly, there's no quick way to get good. You just have to put in a lot of hours, put in a lot of practice, and practicing certain heroes until you're competent on a lot of them. And yeah, that's the main thing about flex. You have to have like the largest hero pool, have to play like the tanks, the DPS, like everything in between. So it's just came from a lot of playing, honestly.
Yeah, so obviously because you're Flex, you're probably more in tune with what like the meta kind of the meta shifts and what's becoming more of a on meta and what's becoming more off meta. What champions are on the come up? What champions do you feel like are going to see a lot more play in the next patches?
Well, if the patches go the way that it looks like they're going to go, Zenyatta, it sounds like his Discord will be getting nerfed. I'm not sure to how much they're going to nerf it, but I'll say right now the fact that Zenyatta is so strong, he's one of the main reasons that heroes like Roadhog and Pharah aren't in the meta that much currently, just because the Discord, when it's on those two heroes, they get absolutely shredded by it. So I think if Zenyatta gets nerfed, you could see both of them potentially come back in the meta more. I think 76 could also use a slight buff because right now he's pretty much just like a worse version of McCree. So I think there's a couple different things that I would like to see Blizzard do. I will say I've seen some teams testing out a lot of different things in the current patch. I know NRG has tried out a lot of Ana. They've had mixed results with her. So I think it's cool to see all these teams trying out different heroes. But right now the meta is pretty set in stone. Most teams run like a full-time Zarya, full-time Zen Lucio, full-time Rein or Winston, and the DPS is either play like Tracer, Reaper, Genji, or McCree. So it's pretty... Honestly, it's a little stale right now, I'd almost say. Our whole team liked the old meta a lot more before the Zen buffs, because you had like projectile heroes like Pharah that were in the meta. You had these heroes like Roadhog was definitely good. Zarya was still really good. So it felt like the Zen buff just took so many heroes out of being viable just because how strong he is now. So I would like to see Blizzard do something with him to make those heroes viable again.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, the Zen being so strong now limits a lot of the other availabilities. But in terms of kind of like selecting a team composition and really going for and selecting a specific combination of DPS and tank, as a flex, you probably have a lot of say in terms of what you want to play, but in terms of like what you have to play also. How's your team come around to the decision of assigning like, okay, we want this player specifically playing this combination of champions, or we want a specific DPS duo?
Well, so for our DPS, Torque and Nick, Torque is one of the few players on the team who can play Genji effectively, and Genji is super strong in the current meta, so pretty much Torque is forced to be our Genji on any maps that require it, which then leaves Nick to be either Tracer, Reaper, that sort of thing. But it was like back in the old meta before the Zen buffs, Nick was like a full-time Pharah, and Torque was the one who played like all the different hit scan heroes. So it kind of just depends on which heroes are strong and which ones aren't. That determines who plays what, because back when Roadhog was really strong, I'm one of the best Roadhogs in the game, so it made sense to have me pretty much on full-time Roadhog while everyone else filled up other roles. So the good thing about our team is most people are strong on a lot of heroes. Like even though I'm the flex and I can play almost every hero, our DPS like Nick and Torque can also play some of the tank heroes if necessary and play almost any of the DPS out there. So thankfully we aren't forced into like running suboptimal comps just because someone can't play a certain hero. We can always run like any of the strongest heroes out there. Just because right now for me, since Zarya is so strong, I'm pretty much full-time Zarya right now, which it's all right. Like sometimes Zarya can be really fun, but I do miss playing, a lot of different heroes. That is one of the more fun things about Flex, just being able to go whatever hero you want normally. But obviously I'm going to do what is going to help my team win. So I'm going to play whatever hero is the strongest and gives us the best chance to win. And right now that's pretty much Zarya.
Yeah. So if you could give some like tidbits of advice to aspiring pros or maybe aspiring pro teams to kind of help them improve, what small pieces of advice would you give them?
So I think I mentioned it earlier. Like there's no quick way to get top level. Like if you expect to be playing like a couple of weeks and instantly be at the top, then you're going in with the wrong expectations. It's going to take time. Like our team scrims like 6 to 8 hours a day, literally every day, with maybe a day off here or there. So there's no quick way to get there. It takes a lot of playing. But outside of that, you actually there's a lot of, you have to look at things from like the bigger picture. So if you're just running a comp because you see other teams running it, but you don't understand why it's so effective, then you're not like going to improve properly. Like you have to actually look at it like, okay, this makes sense running this hero with this, and looking at it like that. And then the one big thing that separates like top teams from lower level teams is proper like ult combos and things like that. Like understanding that, oh, if I combo this Zarya black hole with a tracer bomb, we can wipe their whole team easily without having to like go for any risky shots where we could get picked off. So it's just understanding all these different aspects of it to it, and then just watching a lot of the top level teams play. Like if you see how the top level teams play, you'll see how they engage, disengage with Lucio speed boost, all that sort of stuff. So there's just a lot of things you can take away from that as long as you're willing to put in the time and do the research properly.
Yeah, no, of course, and obviously you guys have put in the effort, and it's clearly showing right now. So, just some fun questions to wrap up the interview with. So a new map was announced today. If you had to create like a new mechanic to add to a map, what would it be?
So from coming from TF2, the main game type in TF2 was 5 CP, 5 control points, where basically both teams start with 2 control points captured, and the middle one is open, and whichever team captures that one then tries to push on to the next one and the next one. So whichever team captures all 5 control points ends up winning. And I would actually be really curious to see how that type of game mode plays out in Overwatch. I think it's one that could actually work pretty well with how the game is, because Overwatch and TF2 to a certain extent are pretty similar games. So I would think something like that could be really cool. Or just, potentially even something crazy like CTF, like Capture the Flag, where you have like an intel, you got to bring it back to your base, that sort of thing. I'd be curious to see how either one of those played out. But I will say I think it is pretty cool currently, the mix of different game modes where you have some with like capture points, you have payload maps, Koth. I think it's pretty cool that all of them are viable in the competitive scene. I will say for the longest time, the 2 CP maps like Volskaya and Anubis, pretty much nobody scrimmed those and everyone hated them. But honestly, the more our team has started playing them, we do see some pretty good aspects from them, and we've actually been enjoying playing them a lot more lately. So it's cool seeing that 2 CP maps are starting to become pretty in the meta also.
Yeah, and in the same vein, Sombra has kind of been announced, and everyone, I guess, has an idea that she's going to be a stealth hero. What would be another game mechanic or I guess a character mechanic you would add to the game to maybe spice it up a little bit?
So I heard something about Blizzard mentioning, I think it was in some development video from a while ago, where they were also potentially looking at a hero with the ability to make like almost a jump pad or something. I think they mentioned something like that. And from thinking about like that sort of mechanic, I think it'd be a pretty cool thing where, like, say you're on Dorado second point, where there's like the upper level and lower level, where you could have like a jump pad where the people, like your whole team, could get up top without having to like walk through the whole staircase. Or there's like a lot of maps like Gibraltar also, like in the ship section, where you could do the jump pad up top to get on the ship. Like I think a mechanic like that could actually be pretty cool also. Besides that, I think the idea behind Sombra, like a stealth mechanic, could definitely work out pretty cool too. So I'm definitely excited to see like what Blizzard does with all of it.
All right, awesome. And to close out the interview, do you have any shout outs you want to give before we wrap it up?
Shout outs to first and foremost compLexity for sponsoring us, and their main sponsor, Sound Blaster. They've been super awesome to us since picking us up. Shout outs to all my teammates who've been, great the entire time. This is one of the most fun teams I've ever played with. Everyone on the team is really funny, and it's just been really cool playing with all of them. And then pretty much everyone in the Overwatch scene, people who watch my stream, people who play the game, all the sponsors running these tournaments out there, pretty much everyone who's got the game to where it is, and definitely Blizzard for making such an awesome game. It's been game's only been out for 3 months, but so far it's been an awesome 3 months. I'm really excited to see where it goes from here.
All right, awesome. And also on my side, thank you so much for GosuGamers for being, obviously allowing me to do these interviews, as well as Face It and E-League for obviously hosting the Overwatch Open. Then obviously without them, this interview would not be able to occur. So below us right now, each of us is our Twitter handles. Mine is ScribeOW with a 1, and below Harbleu right now is HarbleuOW. You can find him out on Twitter as well. So obviously thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll have a lot of interviews, more interviews as we lead up to the final LAN on site at TBS Studios. So hopefully we'll see you guys then. And obviously thank you so much for doing this interview with me, and I hope you have a great rest of the night, and good luck at Gamescom.
Thank you.